You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the podcasters on the 42 cast tonight.
Hi ho.
So, hello, and welcome to the 42 cast. So, as I've probably already front loaded for you, we're talking about the Muppets this week. So, my wife just put up a little sheet that says 10 out of 10. But anyway, so I was for a half a second going to sing it and decided that I wasn't going to sing it. So there we go. But before we talk about the Muppets, let's meet our cast for this week. So as I already mentioned, she is our sorceress of sewing, and that is my lady wife, Beth. How are you doing, Beth?
I'm doing pretty good. How do you?
That's not, it's funny because I thought you were going to do a Muppet for your intro. I did not think that was the direction you were going to go.
You know, Swedish Chef is my favorite, and it has nothing to do with the fact that we started watching it when I worked at IKEA.
Yeah, but there's another one you do a lot. That's more of a fan favorite, crowd pleaser one. But maybe we'll get that later.
Later, yes.
Okay. So yeah, how have you been doing, Beth?
I go for the shock value first. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I got a new job where I can now say officially that I am a tailor, and that I think is what I've been trying to get to all along. I just had to muster up the courage to try something new.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
Yep. So yeah, you've left IKEA behind, you've left industrial sewing behind, and now you're a simple tailor. Like
Yep.
Garrick from DS9.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say, and I forgot. Oh. I need to find my geek card. I think it's in my wallet. I need to hand it back to you because I think it's now been revoked.
So are you working on anything today while you're talking?
Yeah, I actually have this little thing that I'm going to bring to work to put my pins in when I'm fitting and adjusting things on human beings. It's a little plushie of Psyduck that friends have made for me, and I'm going to put it on an elastic strap so I can have it on my wrist with all my pins in it. So Psyduck is my spirit Pokemon because of the perpetual migraine that we both have in common. But he's my boy.
All right.
He looks like Perry the Platypus.
Perry.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
All right. Well, Beth, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Next up, he is the guy that absolutely loves comics. He still has Thanos on his couch, and that is my friend Eric. How are you doing, Eric?
I mean, if you know the hellscape that is my job, if I ever can start getting to be creative again, it doesn't look like it anytime soon. But last I checked, yeah, Thanos is still very much stuck on the couch. But lately, what are we going on 8 months at this point? There's thankfully three strips from Scott that'll hopefully be published soon from ages ago at this point, but I want to get writing again. I'm existing, not very well, but I'm existing. I'm hanging in there by a thread.
Well, I mean, that's better than the alternative, so I'm glad you're existing.
It's a very thin thread, but
Yeah.
no. Well, I mean, the part-time job, is there. Comic book shop is still there. It's nice. But I mean, that's to escape from the hellscape every once in a while. I was there until 12 o'clock on Monday, Nathan. We close at 10.
Well, I'm sorry that your work is creating that much.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm
that was
alive.
trouble for you,
I'm
but
surviving.
yeah. But I'm glad you at least have the comic shop to go to
Oh yeah,
get away from it all.
that's the non-job, even though it is a job.
Right. Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Eric.
It's always good to be here, especially when I can talk about my favorite things.
Hmm. All right. Next up, he is our expert in all things film, and that is Tom. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm tired, dude.
Yeah, aren't you moving like tomorrow or
The
something?
semester starts, and I start my trek to Canada on Thursday. So it's like,
Mm.
ah! But I love the Muppets enough to take a break from packing and laundry to join y'all.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to like get this fitted in just as, you were like the last possible day I can do this is Tuesday. And I was like, all right, we're gonna do it on Tuesday so that you can participate. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot going on anyway, Tom, but anything new and exciting?
No, just never a dull moment in academia. Add
Mhm.
an M and you get a tasty Hawaiian nut.
All right, well, it's good to have you back on the show, Tom.
Good to be had.
All right, and next up, he is someone that joined us for talking about Galaxy Quest, and that is Steve. How are you doing, Steve?
Doing good, doing good.
So, anything new and exciting in the last 9 months or so since the last time you were on the show?
Oh, absolutely. I went through promotion, stepped back into a leadership position
Hmm.
with my company, and actually just got back from my first trip to Iowa last week. First time I'd ever been out there, and that was interesting. Of course, me, good old Southern boy down here in Georgia, uh, stopped at the restaurant and lady asked me what I'd like to drink, and I was like, half and half tea. And she looked at me like I had four heads, and she's like, we've got raspberry and unsweet. You want those together? And I'm like, well, no, ma'am. I said it's a unsweet and sweet, half mixed, which anywhere down here in Georgia, you're going to ask for half and half, and that's what you're going to get. But she's like, we don't have sweet tea. I was telling my wife, she's like, yeah, honey, you're not in Georgia anymore. But it was an interesting trip to the Midwest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too far away from where I am. I'm in Wisconsin, so yeah,
Okay.
a little bit out from there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I see that you have a Muppet behind you. Of course, people listening to this won't be able to see it.
Yeah, that was I got that for Christmas in 1978, and I have
Mm.
held on to that ever since. And of course, up top are my little finger puppets that I've had just about as long, if maybe a couple of them maybe a little bit longer.
Very cool. All right, well, it's good to have you back on the show, Steve.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And finally, squeaking in at the last minute. It's my friend Miranda. How are you doing, Miranda?
I'm doing good, despite technical difficulties, trying
Mm.
desperately to join this Zoom call, but I finally got it. So all is well.
All right, and yeah, what's been new and exciting for you since the last time you were on?
Um, I'm producing some theater, gonna, be doing some monologue short play festival pretty soon in the fall. So that's exciting.
Hmm.
I do, yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's good to have you back on the show, Miranda.
Glad to be back.
All right. Well, normally we'd have our 5 minute controversy, but with five guests, it is way too many people to have a 5 minute controversy. So, we will table that for another time. But yeah,
That's
like we
quitters
mentioned,
talk, Nathan.
at least you didn't say that's a skill issue. But
That'll come later. It's fine.
yeah, but yeah, we're gonna talk about the Muppets. But first, we're gonna pause for a promo from another fine podcast.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath,
And I'm Tony Heath,
and we're the hosts of the Watchathon of Rassilon.
a podcast where we used to talk about all of classic Doctor Who.
But we finished all of that.
So now we're talking about New Who.
Well, old New Who.
Right, the Russell T Davies era.
Well, the old Russell T Davies era.
Yeah, the David Tennant stuff.
Well, the old David Tennant stuff.
The Watchathon of Rassilon.
Your podcast for old, new, and old new Doctor Who.
most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppetational. This is what we call the Muppet Show!
And we're back. And like we mentioned at the top of the show, we are talking about the Muppets today. And of course, that is a big topic because the Muppets have been around for a very long time. In fact, longer than I even knew, because I thought the Muppet Show was the beginning of the Muppets. But if you actually look at the history, Jim Henson was making shows before that. And some of the characters like Sam the Eagle have been around for much longer than the Muppet Show. So
And Ralph.
Yeah. So, I mean, several of the characters that appeared well before that. Of course, the thing that makes me laugh is, of course, realizing that the reason why Sam the Eagle is the conservative one is because he's been around for so long. And so that's why they gave him that sort of a personality. But yeah.
Sorry,
so
he just texted me. Sam the Eagle just texted me, reminding us to have a good, wholesome podcast this evening.
Right. Yes. But let's talk about like how we all came to the Muppets, with that in mind. So, let's start with you on this one, Eric. Did you start what did you start with and how did you come to the Muppets, if you can recall?
My surprisingly most vivid memory, and this is like a super surprising thing for, I mean, obviously with my age being what it is, but my most vivid memory as a little kid is growing up and not knowing what channel it was syndicated on, but seeing the special that happened right after Jim's passing. Like as a very young kid, one of my most vivid like pop culture memories, especially connected to something like the Muppets of all things, is the fact that, like what they did for Jim's passing and tackling it head on, and it very much being like we're not sugarcoating this for kids. We're flat out, like we're going into the fact that the guy who created these characters, he just passed away. This is his legacy. His characters are going to very much talk about him in like an almost ethereal way to a certain extent, where it's like they're tackling it, but at the same time they're being like, hey, we're very much, these living, breathing creatures, but the guy responsible for our creation, he just passed away. So let's tackle that in a respectful, but like also in like in the creative way that, Jim himself would appreciate. And I very much have a vivid memory of that special as a kid. Like even the whole bit where, they're all walking around and being like, hey, who are those people underneath us? I love that bit from, even from when I was a kid. Because I mean, I was mature for my age, but I mean, even back then, the Muppets were very much their own thing to me. Like it's a thing where it's like, yes, obviously somebody is underneath that puppet, but they're very much their own people as well. But like I said, I mean, that memory even back then to me as a kid is, I mean, obviously that is one of those first memories for me with the Muppets, and being the guy who has ADHD, not knowing I had ADHD back then, but consuming everything imaginable. So it's like, I can give you when we get into it later, I can give you the Saturday Night Live facts. I can bring up the fact that, like literally the very first Muppet special is called Sex and Violence and stuff like that. It's like the Muppets weren't necessarily for kids, even dating back to their earliest predilection, but it's just, anyways, to answer the question, it was literally Jim's passing, and the special they made to tackle Jim's passing is a very vivid memory to me, even when I was a little kid.
Yeah, we're going to come back to a lot of the things that you brought up when we talk about like the appeal of the Muppets, but yes, okay. But that is cool that is like your big memory, like your first memory of the Muppets is actually that special. So that is really neat. Steve, what about you?
As far as intro to the Muppets, of course, I knew who Kermit the Frog was from Sesame Street, and I'm a child of the '70s, so my intro, came from that, sparked from that, and then I remember seeing this show that had Kermit and some other folks on it, and we started watching it on Thursday nights on CBS, and we would actually go over to my babysitter that lived down the road, and we would be watching it. But made sure that every Thursday night we made sure we were watching that Muppet Show.
Nice. Miranda, what about you?
It was probably Muppet Babies when I was really little. I think probably was the first Muppet exposure I had. And then from there, the movies. And then actually the Muppet Show was like the last Muppet content I encountered because they started rerunning it on some cable channel when I was in middle school. And it was on like every day. And after school, I would watch it. And it was just really good, I mean, and because the thing about the Muppet Show, like it was not like for kids. It was for like everybody. It was a big show that like was like a family viewing, and it just has this like great timeless appeal, and it was like a big deal show back in those days too. It was they'd get like stars that like would not go to other shows because like the Muppets were like that was like a tier above. And I grew up watching like old Hollywood musicals, and they get like old Hollywood people like Gene Kelly and stuff, and I love that. And yeah, that's I always liked the Muppets, but the Muppet Show is where I love the Muppets now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, when you think about it, like, we don't have a variety show in the same way as the Muppet Show anymore, but they were pulling in some of those actors who were from, like, the vaudeville days. And, like, when that used to be a thing, both live performances and, like, shows where it was like, there's a little bit of music and there's a little bit of, like, comedy skits and, there's a little bit of everything kind of stuff. And it's like, it's an art form that died, I think, because, I mean, we really don't see that anymore. But yeah, it's a really neat thing about the Muppet Show. Tom, what about you?
Because I'm older and I think I felt some gray hair sprouting when Eric was talking. As a child of the 60s, my first exposure to the Muppets was on the Ed Sullivan Show. Ed Sullivan Show. But Sesame Street, I remember when Sesame Street was brand new, somewhere at my parents' house. I have the second Sesame Street record, which I still remember a lot of the songs from it. So, of course, Kermit's one of my favorite characters. My plebe summer at the Naval Academy, my friend Barb Newman accompanied me on Rainbow Connection. I borrowed my sister's puppet, which she's never getting back, and we won. So that was kind of cool. And no, I love the Muppets. The Muppet Show. I was bummed that they didn't release seasons 4 and 5 on disc, but thanks to Disney Plus, we did get those episodes, including the triptych of Christopher Reeve, Linda Carter, Luke Skywalker, and Mark Hamill.
That's right. Yeah, his cousin.
But they're all 3 in a row the same season, which is like geek heaven or nerdvana. But no, love the Muppets. The last TV show they did for ABC was problematic, and we might get to that eventually. But the movies, the first movie, I mean, most of the movies are pretty good. And Treasure Island has a special place for me, and Christmas Carol has a special place for me. That was the first big Muppet media without Jim. And so the Tiny Tim scene takes on extra resonance because it's the first big project without Jim. But yeah, I'm a diehard fan.
And Beth?
Well, I can't really pin down my first exposure because, as with so many things, if it happened pre-pregnancy, I don't remember. And I really cannot explain why I don't remember half the things that happened to me before I got pregnant. The first time around. So, I mean, I know I saw some Muppet movies on matinee in the summer, and I know I watched some of the Muppet Babies. And I remember very strongly my mother saying, "You can't watch the Muppet Show because it's adult." Now, this is coming from a very highly conservative family in the South, so make of that what you will.
They blocked
But
the Cartoon Network from her. She couldn't watch it
no, that
because
was just because what I was like 18 plus and
I
still
know.
watching it, and they thought it was like, this is beneath you. You need
Right.
to
It was
grow up,
they
okay?
thought there was something wrong with an 18-year-old wanting to watch cartoons. So
Yeah. I'm
I'm
now
just
wearing
explaining.
Psyduck, by the way. This is great. I love this. Um, but yeah, like we started watching it together on Disney Plus recently, and a couple of things that I saw, I was like, yeah, maybe this is what threw them off and made them not want to let me watch it. But it's just like it's just slightly above Pixar humor, you know? There's enough for the kids to laugh and also stuff for the adults to laugh. So it really is, there's something for everybody. And yeah, my parents are weird.
Yeah,
Notice the
no, I
present
mean there
tense.
are a few things that when we watched it I kind of cocked an eyebrow at, like, okay, that's a little risque, but generally the Muppet Show doesn't go into a territory where I'd be like, this is a little too much for kids. There were two or three, and I can't remember, I didn't keep track, but there were like two or three times where I was like, maybe this episode went a little too far, but that we're gonna get back to again about the different dynamics of the Muppets in a minute. So for me, it was the Muppet Show. It must have been some channel that was showing it just after, because I would have been young for the first run. I mean, I wasn't alive for half of the first run, and then I was alive for the second half, but I would have been an infant, so I wouldn't have, caught on. But I don't know where it was, but somewhere when I was 4 or 5 was showing it in reruns, and it was still in the evening though, so maybe it was a cable channel. I don't know what it was, but the whole family sat down and watched it. My dad loved the Muppets. He loved the fact that it had like the my dad was always a fan of shows that had two levels. Like he made us watch Rocky and Bullwinkle for the same reason, because it was a cartoon that had like jokes that were on like, the multiple levels and everything. So
That is bizarre because I loved Rocky and Bullwinkle, and my parents were fine with that one.
well, that wasn't risque humor, but there was humor that was above the heads of like your average child, you know.
Okay,
Ma-
fair.
they're tracking down the ruby yacht of Omar Khayyam, stuff like that. It's like, like, talking about a highbrow reference in a cartoon. But anyway, um, but then the funny thing is, then Muppet Babies is the next thing, I watched, which, is, I liked because it had a lot of pop culture references in it. So Muppet Babies was a lot about like imagining that you're in these other worlds and everything. And that sort of had that sort of fun aspect to it. But I did definitely see the 3 Muppet movies in the 80s, and I did watch the Muppet Show. And so it was always something that I really liked. But kind of drifted away for a while and then came back to it later. But all right, let's talk about the appeal of the Muppets, because this is like we talked about. I mean, like it's keeps coming back, right? Like we mentioned before in the beginning of the show, they're actually Jim Henson Muppet productions even before the Muppet Show, although they're not, I don't think as well known. And then, of course, there's the Muppet Show, which is a big thing that, most people who were alive at the time remember. And then, since then, there's periodically been some new Muppet product, whether it's a movie, whether it's an animated show, whether it's a new attempt at a series and all that kind of stuff. So why do we think the Muppets keep coming back? So I'll start with you on this one, Beth. What do you think is, the appeal, the enduring appeal of the Muppets?
Well, to answer your original wording, they keep coming back because you can't kill them. They have. They, we saw how that played out in Angel.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're making an Angel reference here, aren't you?
I know. Like you can see like Muppet references in other media. Like it's a
Smile
snake
time
eating
isn't
its
free,
tail.
Beth.
What? Yeah,
Smile
smile
time
time
isn't free.
Exactly. So you'll see like the Muppets, comment on other things in media, and then media does the same right back to them. They give as good as they get. And it's just a lighthearted thing where you can comment on things without commenting on them. You can get away with a lot because they're not like, you don't see people. They're the Muppets, like the people are beneath and all that. So you can almost personify certain aspects of reality in these things that are supposedly unreal. And I forget what it's called, where it's like something is so close to real it's creepy. What is that called?
Uncanny Valley.
Uncanny Valley. Yeah, and I think that's part of it too.
Okay. All right, Tom.
Brett Goldstein has a really interesting theory about this. By the way, if you haven't seen the clip of him on Sesame Street with Oscar the Grouch, it's hilarious. Um, but he thinks that the thing about the Muppets is they love what they do, but they're not particularly good at it, but that doesn't stop them. And which is brilliant because kind of this indomitable human spirit. But yeah, they're fun. I mean, and what's really interesting is they're versatile because they created a whole bunch of new Muppets for Sesame Street,
Mm.
but there were some that pre-existed Sesame Street and some, Kermit kind of was introduced to a lot of people through the original OG Sesame Street, but so many other characters that have, Big Bird, Cookie, Elmo's, way after my time, but still, everybody knows who these characters are, and
Hmm.
Snuffleupagus. Um, but yeah, it's just they're fun and they can be informational and educational. Or there's a great clip, one of the clips in Jim Henson Idea Man, the documentary by Ron Howard, which if you haven't seen it, you need to stop, after this podcast, watch it.
Mm.
Because I've seen it a couple of times and it's brilliant. And there's a scene where little girls with Kermit on Sesame Street, and he just says, "You know what? I love you. I love you too." And she just gives him a hug. It's just like, oh my gosh, complete acceptance.
Hmm.
And yet very soothing and able to deal with some real world issues. Like when Mr. Hooper passed, the actor who played Mr. Hooper passed in real life, they wrote it into Sesame Street.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, just love the Muppets.
Miranda?
Um, I mean, I think just like puppets in general just have an appeal to all humans, and I think like the Muppets just like they're the perfect example because they're zany and they're silly, but they have heart, and I just think it's just no matter how old you are, you just like you can't not love Kermit. I mean, just like
Hmm.
the characters they created are so like real and heartfelt, and along with the silliness that it just like you just fall in love with them, and and they feel so real. So I think everybody just kind of connects to that somehow.
Yeah, I agree with you about the reality. It's one of the things that I talked to Beth about when we were watching it, is it's like I forget that they're puppets for a while because they're so well done and so expressive that it goes beyond puppetry to, some. I don't know if that's the reason why Jim Henson just called them Muppets instead of puppets, or what the M comes from, but there's something beyond puppetry here to where they are full characters, in a way that, if I see a puppet show or whatever, like I never buy that they're real. I know that it's a puppet in front of me, but the Muppets have a dimension and reality to them that I don't think that general puppets do.
And a lot of that is down to the skill of those original Muppeteers.
Hmm.
Because, like, so these Muppets, when you look at, they don't have like moving parts. They don't have like eyes or things. They're not like super sophisticated. They're regular puppets, but like just like with the smallest movements, like you could see their expressions on their faces and like feel all their emotions. And it just like they just like did such a good job of just creating these complete characters. And it's just like, like it's like it's so much more compelling than like huge CGI or like even really sophisticated like like things can do. Just like a human being with a thing on their hand, like it has a magic that just it's beyond technology. It's direct from a human being, you know what I mean?
Hmm. No, I completely understand. Steve, what do you think is the appeal, the enduring appeal of the Muppets?
Well, I can speak for myself as far as what the appeal is. It's nostalgia for me. It's you know, I've said lots of times to told my story to a lot of my friends, and um, to me, they're my oldest friends.
Mm.
The Bert and Ernie. Um, I lost my parents when I was very young and came to live with my grandparents from Alaska all the way to Georgia. Um, and maybe had seen my grandparents a few times in my life, but at 2.5 didn't know who they were. So the only thing familiar to me was Bert and Ernie, still a little stuffed animal that I had, and I carried them everywhere. And so how my family related to me, my new family related to me, was a lot through the Muppets and these little finger puppets and things. So it became probably one of the reasons why I'm such a huge toy nut now, is because that is something in my life that at that age brought me such comfort during a very trying time, and it still does. Walking down a toy aisle, I mean, that's the first place I go when I walk into any store is the toy aisle, and it's I'm 50, fixing to be 53 years old, and I still turn my head at Bert and Ernie or Oscar the Grouch or any of the Muppets. I mean, so for me, they will always be such a huge part of me. They'll never die until I do.
I had a Bert doll too. I remember a picture of my baby album that my parents made of me hugging my Bert doll. Yeah. I when I was talking earlier, I completely forgot about the whole thing about, oh yeah, Sesame Street. Huge. Huge part of my
Yeah,
youth.
I know. I was
Oh
I
yeah,
was I was thinking when I asked the question more about the characters that are commonly recognized as the Muppets, quote unquote.
right.
Even though I know there's some interplay. I mean, even Bert and Ernie did show up on the Muppet Show in the early episodes. They did that as sort of a thing of, hey kids, watch the Muppet Show
Right.
also, and here's like a Bert and Ernie segment. So I mean, like there's always been that interplay. And of course, in the Muppet movies, the Sesame Street
Bert and
characters
Ernie
show up.
and Big Bird were at the wedding.
No. But yeah, I mean, but generally, I was thinking more of the characters that we normally think of as the Muppets, even though they're all Jim Henson Muppet,
Right.
characters. Um,
Nathan, the M is from Marionette. That was
oh,
good.
okay.
I thought they were going to go with magic for like how they're like alive on top of a human's hand.
All right, Eric, what do you think?
It's something that honestly didn't click with me until I was probably somewhere in my 20s.
Mm,
But I mean, looking back on it now, um, honestly, Jim Henson and his crew are basically both from a crew standpoint and the actual Muppets. It's the ultimate definition of found family. It's
hmm,
the ultimate definition of these people. They came together, they had these ideas, they created these characters, and then obviously on the actual Muppet side of things, it's like each one of these characters has a different personality, but they all came together and work well together because they're just this ultimate found family. This is this
hmm,
group of friends that no matter what, and I mean what was it, the 2009 movie nails it perfectly. It's like, yes, they all have their problems. They're all these unique people, but at the end of the day, they're still family. These
hmm,
these characters, for all their flaws, for all their humilities, and for, like all their positives, at the end of the day, they come together, they make each other better, they build each other up because they're family. They put up with each other's madness and bring the best out in each other, and it's something that you didn't see a lot of other sitcoms and writing really tackle until I was blank on his last name, Norman. All his sitcoms back in like the late 60s, early 70s,
Norman
you
Lear.
didn't really get that. Yeah, Norman Lear. You didn't really get this stuff until Norman Lear came up with his sitcoms, but Jim and his crew were doing that even before then, and even like they excelled at it because I mean you look at those original movies, you look at the movies that were then tackled in 2009 and 2011, and like you look at all this stuff, and Henson's legacy lived on through creators that really understood. I mean, the Muppet Haunted Mansion also tackles it perfectly because it's like look at Gonzo, even then facing getting older, but still manages to be like, oh, I have my family. And I think that's the staying power of the Muppets, is because you look at that, and at the core it's Kermit the Frog dealing with a bunch of madness, but these people are literally his family. Like, all
Mhm.
these crazy cast of characters are the people that stick with him and in when things get bad, they're still there for him. Like, it's like I said, I didn't realize this until somewhere in my 20s, but that is very much the heart of the Muppets, even in the classic 80s original show. It's very much, okay, all the madness is happening, we're still family. And I love that about the Muppets. And that's specifically to the Muppets. I mean, I know everybody was talking about the Sesame Street stuff, but that is very much, in my opinion, for laser focused for the Muppet side of things. It's very much found slash family in general. That is the heart of the Muppets. That is the core aspect and staying power of why all of us love the Muppets as they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think Miranda brought up one of the points that I wanted to bring up, which of course was the fact that they're just so realistic. I mean, there were times when I was almost thinking like, I wonder what Kermit thinks about, and I was like, oh, right, like Kermit's not a real person, like, but that's the thing. Their reality is so good. They are so expressive, which again is a complex interaction of voice acting and the puppetry that's going on, and that it's so good and so well put together that you begin to think that these are real, people, and that's, and part of that, and I think part of the genius of that, and part of why I think people love the Muppet stuff is that there's several factors that always turn up, right? We always have interaction between Muppets and real people, right? It's never just Muppets, or at least not that I can think of. It's never just Muppets. There's always at least one human being, in the interaction. I mean, there's a few skits in the Muppet Show where it's just the Muppets, but a lot of times there's real people in there, and certainly no whole episode goes by or no movie goes by without real people. Um, there's always some level of meta going on, whether or not they're commenting on things like, oh, like, one of the gags in the Muppet movie, the original one, is they get a hold of the script of the movie, right? Which is funny. But even the Muppet Show is, it's like, the conceit of the Muppet Show is that the Muppets are performers, and so there's like this two-tier level thing of, the fictional characters, we see the behind the scenes of the fictional characters, right? And so there's that whole side of it. And so there's sort of like, it's sort of like we sort of play with reality, right? Like, all those things, I think, make them more real because of the fact that there's like multiple levels of immersion, both because of the mixing of humans with Muppets, but also because of the fact that the Muppets themselves treat this as if it's a performance that they're giving often. And so because of that, you sort of get sucked into this Muppet world because, yeah, you realize the story is fictional, but then you're seeing the behind the scenes. And then it seems almost like, because of that second level, that this is the real part, right? And so there's this whole sort of thing, and I think that it just becomes this fun thing. And like has also been mentioned, very over the top, funny, genuinely funny, archetypally funny. Not like trying to manufacture humor by creating a bunch of contrived scenarios, but the characters themselves all have some personality trait that's just ratcheted up and is extreme and ludicrous. And then you have long-suffering Kermit as your, straight man character, who's always just kind of like, you know. And again, I just love, it's just so much that just is a touchstone to like real things that people can get a hold of. So I think that sort of duality of it's super over the top while also almost tricking you into believing it's real, that I think like creates this thing that people want to embrace it, because it's almost like you can imagine this ludicrous fun world is real, and you want to be part of that. And so that's kind of like the thought process I've just sort of gone through, just sort of pondering this as I watch through however many episodes 5 seasons of the Muppets has, the Muppet Show. But yeah, and even like I say, the movies also play with it. But I don't think any of the versions of the Muppets, personally, I don't think any of the versions of the Muppets have been as good as the Muppet Show. I'm not sure if anyone would disagree with me on that, but that to me is like the prime expression. Although I have enjoyed other shows and movies and things with the Muppets. Um,
And if you, dear listener, disagree, you can email us at
yeah, everything at 42cast.com. I honestly would love to hear somebody, tell me that I love hearing what people love. So I mean, like if you want to tell me like, movie X is my favorite Muppet thing, go ahead. That doesn't detract from what I like. Um, but yeah, so before I think we talk about a little deeper stuff, I think everybody's got a favorite Muppet, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Beth kind of already front loaded with hers. But yeah, so let's talk about our favorite Muppets. And so as somebody brings up a Muppet, that sort of opens the forum. If you want to talk about that same Muppet, and then we'll move on to, what somebody else's favorite Muppet is and so on and so forth. But let's start with you, Miranda. Who is your favorite Muppet?
I'm gonna be basic. It's Kermit. You just you just cannot not love Kermit. I mean, he's just like I mean, I don't even I don't even know what he's definitely he's not like the zaniest or the funniest, but like maybe because he's like the most like a real person, and he's also also the thing about in the Muppet Show, it's basically like a backstage sitcom,
Hmm.
and Kermit's kind of like the stage manager keeping it all together. And like as a theater person who is also stage managed, that is deeply relatable. Because it's like you're so frustrated, you're working so hard, working with like actors and all these people. It's like herding cats. But like at the end of the day, you love them and you love the theater and you love this. And Kermit, at the end of the day, he loves them all and he loves this. And like that's like what's like so like endearing and relatable about him. Because even though like on the surface he's exasperated, at the end of the day, he's one of them and he loves it all too. And it's just it's such a relatable as a theater person, and it's just like such a very layered, nuanced character, and it's just and whenever Kermit sings when he sings when it's not easy being green or Rainbow Connection, like Waterworks, I cannot not cry. It just it gets you in your heart, and it's just he's literally the first Kermit was made out of an old coat that Jim Henson had. But he's this real creature that you just cannot not love,
I I cannot believe the amount of expression that they can get out of what's basically a sock puppet. Okay, I mean, like, it's basically the very basic thing of a hand and a mouth that can do this, but just the way that they contort the hand to make his face screw up. I mean, I realize he's got the little arms and little legs too that they can, manipulate when they need to. But just like the amount of expression that Kermit has is phenomenal to me for something that's a fairly basic puppet design. But yes, I agree with you. I love Kermit just because of the fact that he is, like so much the down to earth. And I know that's the weirdest thing to say about a puppet. He is the down to earth character in that group.
He's every frog.
Yes, exactly.
Another hot tip, if you haven't seen it, Kermit the Frog gave the commencement speech at University of Maryland this year.
Hmm.
Jim Henson was an alum, and it's a brilliant speech. It's and the kids were in, I mean, everybody was charmed, and the content was solid, and he had a lot of Easter eggs in there for Muppet fans. But
Mhm.
I've seen it twice, and it's available on YouTube, many different vantage points. It was covered by all the news stations. One of the funniest bits that still kind of makes me smile is in the Muppet movie when they find out that I think Charles Durning has these this Kentucky Fried Frog legs chain or
Mhm.
whatever, and then Kermit says, "Think of all the little frogs out there walking around in wheelchair or rolling around in wheelchairs." And as I was still a kid when that movie came out, but you have to smile because you know what really happens to
Hmm.
animals whose parts are eaten. But just the innocence and naivete, so refreshing, especially in our world that has always been a bit of a hot mess of varying degrees.
Hmm.
But yeah, Kermit's awesome.
Does anyone have anything they want to add about Kermit before we move on?
I would like to see Kermit get some help getting away from Piggy because she's abusive and I hate her.
Yeah, that's a weird thing that suddenly they just flipped a switch at one point because all the early Muppet Show episodes, it's like he can't stand Piggy. Piggy keeps like coming after him, and then suddenly it's like they threw a switch between like seasons 3 and 4 where suddenly they're a couple, and it's just like this is just the thing now. And
It's so
yeah.
uncomfortable because she is rapacious.
Well, what
There is no
Wow.
other word.
one of the weird choices, and there were many, they made for the Muppets Larry Sanders hybrid thing, which was a bad idea to start with. But they have Kermit and Piggy broken up at the beginning of the
Hmm.
series, and yet his new girlfriend Denise is also a pig.
Yeah.
And so when they fire the showrunner and bring somebody else to try to right the ship, Kermit and Piggy get back together. But Beth, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but and it would be interesting to find out I mean, ask one of the Henson children why that decision was made back in the 70s to move from, you know, kind of opposites attack to opposites attract. But
Yeah. I
So
think
uncomfortable to
more
watch.
highly of the 2017 show than you do, Tom. I think when they brought in the new showrunner, I felt like the show did genuinely become funny. Like the second half of the show, I thought was actually really good. But yeah, I
it
think
was
most people had turned off with the
it
first
was
half
too
of the
late.
show, which yeah, it wasn't. But
Here's the problem, and I will that show and Legends of Tomorrow did not do a traditional pilot. They did a pilot presentation. You have to write an entire pilot
hmm,
because that's the key to a successful show. And Legends floundered for season one. They had the luxury of being, greenlit at a time where they could afford to keep it on and let them find their voice.
hmm,
But Muppets didn't get the chance because that inappropriate joke in the pilot is like, oh, who do you think your audience is? That was not cool, dude. And it has to do with Fozzie and the slang term for bear, and I'm like, oh, no, this is wrong. Don't do that. But it was
hmm,
too late. But yeah, Nathan, like you said, when they fired the original showrunner and brought somebody in, but it was too late
yeah.
because they made good changes. A friend of mine was one of the humans who did background on that show.
Hmm. All right. Anybody else have anything for Kermit? All right. So Tom, who's your favorite Muppet?
Oh, that's why I butted in on Miranda's. It's still
Oh,
Kermit.
okay. All right, that's fair. What's another one you'd like to talk about?
Oh, geez.
You're gonna say
I
Piggy, aren't you?
no, I'm not. Um, Probably Fozzie
Mmm.
because it's
Waka, waka,
interesting,
waka.
especially the influence of like Borscht Belt vaudeville humor cannot be denied. And introducing that style to a younger generation, I'm pretty sure he was created for the Muppet Show, correct?
Yeah, I didn't look up the bio like for all the history on all of them, but yeah,
But
no, yeah,
I
so.
just that and his friendship with Kermit.
Mhm.
Because sometimes they're at odds because of to going down to Miranda, you've got stage manager and out of control talent, but there's still a bond there of friendship. I mean, I think like Eric said, it's a family, and families sometimes don't always get along, but they still have love underneath each other. Moving right along from the Muppet movie is just Paul Williams just knocked it out of the park with that score. And I still think he got ripped off for not getting the Oscar for Rainbow Connection because that song has transcended the movie.
Mhm.
But yeah, moving a lot along right along is just a lot of fun. And it's just, aspects of a buddy road trip at that point in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but Fozzie just some of the memes, and in Muppets Most Wanted, where you have a Danny Trejo doing Waka Waka, just brilliant.
Yeah, it seems almost like, though, I don't know if the feedback they were getting from audiences was negative towards Fozzie, because he's very prominent in the early Muppet Show episodes where they give him every episode, he's got his stand-up routine. And then as the show progresses, you see that happening a little less, and then the last season or two, they don't have him do stand-up at all. Like he's kind of more of a peripheral, character, even though he's always been prominent in the movies and other, things that they do, but in the Muppet Show, they weren't using him so much for that. But I always like the interplay with Statler and Waldorf, on the Muppet Show, and the ways that they, because I'm front loading this a little bit to talk about why I think the Muppet Show is great. But one of the things that they do in the Muppet Show is once something starts getting stale because they've done it too often, they turn it on its head. And so you saw several times where either Fozzie gets back at Statler or Waldorf, or the guest for the week gets back at them for mocking Fozzie or whatever. And I love that they would always be like, okay, this is starting to get tired. Let's do something to shake it up, and would do something like that. But yeah, I like Fozzie. I think that he's fun.
Have you ever seen the Saturday Night Live sketch with Key and Peele
Uh,
and Statler and Waldorf?
no, I haven't.
It's very much a heavy homage to the very thing you're talking about, and it's very funny because Kermit's on stage, they keep interrupting him, and Key and Peele play two security guards that pretty much have to tell them to quiet down or leave, and things get more and more hectic as the sketch goes along, but it very much feels like something straight out of the classic Muppets. Highly recommend it. It's on YouTube if you ever get the chance to check it out, but it's feels very classic Muppets. It's awesome.
Okay.
I think Statler and Waldorf would not quiet down if they're threatened with removal from the theater, because
they
they're always
don't.
like, we gotta get out of here. Why are we still watching the show?
I don't want to spoil the sketch, but they don't.
Okay, fine. Okay.
No, highly recommend. If you get the chance to look it up, trust me, you'll get a kick out of what happens.
Noted.
All right. Anything else about Fozzie before we move on?
To echo what Tom said about the Moving Right Along song, always been one of my favorites. And to this day, like that little earworm will get stuck in my head. Moving right along, chugga. Yeah, it's like fantastic. And then you got when they meet the Muppet Mayhem and so many fabulous songs from that Muppet movie.
Fozzie is very much the archetype of the very definition of dad joke, and that's one of the things that makes Fozzie as awesome as he is, honestly. Because every delivery, every joke, it's just full on dad jokes, and you can't help but to smile because he gets away with it every time, and you gotta love him for it.
Yeah. All right, Beth. I know you already front loaded us, but your favorite is?
All right, so I love me some Swedish Chef, and it has nothing to do with the fact that when we first started watching this together, I was working at IKEA at the time. But everything from start to finish on his skits, from the intro to the very end, just always struck me as so incredibly funny. You got the chef who's going to be a nightmare for the Food Protection Agency. What are they called?
The FDA.
FDA? No, I don't know. The people who rate restaurants. He's always getting enough. But anyway, like the skit that sticks in my mind forever is the one where he's making chocolate mousse, and it starts off innocent enough, like he's mixing up chocolate, and then they bring an actual mousse on the stage, and he starts putting it on the mousse, and Kermit has to interrupt and say, "Wait, we can't do this on TV." So, just every moment of Swedish Chef to me is gold.
Yeah.
You can just barely get through enough of his Swedish gibberish to understand what he's trying to convey. And his skits will often continue throughout the rest of the show. Like if he's chasing down a chicken because it wouldn't lay an egg, or if the chicken is chasing him because he wanted to have its corpse, he's always up to some mischief. And anytime they find a way to shoehorn him into like even a movie, just I love it. I love him so much.
I resent the fact that Disney Plus subtitles will say speaking gibberish when the Swedish chef.
Yes, he has
is
a language.
speaking.
It's called Swedish. There's a hyphen and everything.
I think they should just continue the conceit that he's actually speaking Swedish. And
Because they had a guest star who was like, "Oh, I speak Swedish," and so they spoke to each other back and forth in Swedish, and it was
right.
great.
Yeah, Swedish. Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't they introduce like a Japanese-ish at one point too?
Yeah, that's his native language.
Right. Yeah. But yes, I love the design of the Swedish chef because it's real arms, right? Like, so, it's not like
it's real hands.
Right, yeah, there's real hands, manipulating things in there so that he can do all the more complicated, like, work that he's got to do the sort of cooking stuff. But yes, I love
And
the
throwing
design
whatever
from him.
he's holding, he's always throwing it behind his back, and sometimes the set falls apart and they just keep going.
Yep. Yeah, that's speaking to like what Miranda was talking about with like the show must go on sort of mentality to the Muppet Show of just like chaos is happening and we just gotta keep going on with it.
Unless we're spreading chocolate on an actual moose, then Kermit's got to step in and say, "Wait a minute."
Oh. Anyone else have any thoughts on the Swedish Chef?
Absolutely, it's one of my favorites as well. 8-year-old little Stephen sitting at the kids' table on a Sunday afternoon as my dad who was a pastor, had another pastor come over for Sunday lunch, and his kid and I were sitting at the table, and we had a those little round potatoes, and I had them on my fork, and I was over there, birdie, 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 and I went like that, held on to the fork, the potato not so much. It sailed across the room onto the visiting pastor's plate, and boom, and splattered food everywhere, all over him. Yeah, that was quite an experience for me. After the fact, but that is something to this day when I see the kid that was the pastor's kid, he will bring that up every time.
It's too perfect.
That is great. It's funny because for me it's like there's like almost like tiers with Muppets, right? Like there's who I think of as the Muppet cast, and then there's like sort of like the side characters. And so it's funny to me, Beth, because I've always considered the Swedish Chef one of the side characters, right? Like,
I know.
not one of, like, the core.
He's
like,
always
one of
a
the
side
core.
dish. Bless him.
Yeah. But I love the fact that you love him so much. Like,
Yeah.
that's fun. But yeah,
And
no,
you managed to bring him into D&D, and I don't know how much you want to go into that, but I'll take it.
Well, I didn't want to be sued by Jim Henson, so in fact, you encountered the Moppets, not the Muppets.
Yes.
And
And comprehend languages does not work on the Swedish Chef. Lo and behold.
yeah, they were somewhat murderous for Muppets, but yes, they were very similar.
I had to mention that at some point, right?
No, I didn't even think you would, but no, that's fine.
I had to. It's in the contract.
Yeah, and one of the party got turned into one, so yeah.
Yep. That's a problem. But we still have his body in the bag of holding.
Right.
Anyway, moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along. Did anyone else want to say anything about the Swedish Chef? Okay. All right, Eric, who's your favorite?
I'm glad I get to go next because I'm pretty sure if I can guess Steve's right, I'm taking Steve's before you can get to Steve's. But he's always been my favorite, and it really honestly shouldn't surprise anybody, and it's actually funny because it's literally, when it comes to performances, it's the last man standing because he's the only one still portraying the character in anything. But that would be my man Gonzo, because
Mm.
I have always loved identified with and loved Gonzo since I was a little kid.
I don't know
And
if it was Steve,
not
but you
for
took mine.
Oh, okay. I was gonna guess that it was Steve's. I don't know. I just got that vibe. I could be wrong, and he could be going with the one behind him, but still. No, because when it comes to Gonzo, I mean, he's a weirdo in the best sense of the word, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, and it wasn't something that was really tackled until the mid 90s movies. And this is obviously after the amazingness that is Muppet Christmas Carol, but like in something like Muppets from Space, where Gonzo is very much, they're kind of tackling the he's the only one of his kind. We don't know
Mm.
what Gonzo is. He's very much a a
There was a
man on
Muppet
his
Babies
own in
episode
a
about that as well, where it was like they were trying to figure out what Gonzo was,
Yep,
and yeah, they.
I do remember that one. Yeah. Every time I think of Muppet Babies, all I can think of is the her socks. The fact that like that's sort of like how Mrs. Bellum in Powerpuff Girls, how you never see her face,
Right, right.
you never
I
see
don't
the
remember much from Muppet Babies, but that episode I remember, and I remember when they did Star Wars because anything Star Wars sticks out in my head. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, but yeah.
But I mean, when it comes to Gonzo, and I think one of the things I've always identified with, even when I was a tiny little kid, is the fact that like Gonzo is himself, and sometimes that leads to Gonzo very much being on his own, and just kind of being there, and nobody's kind of paying attention to him, and he feels like he has to not necessarily act out, but kind of be like, hey guys, look what I'm doing, and literally everybody else is just paying attention to whatever else is going on in the background. And like I said, that's something that, while Muppets from Space has its issues as a whole, I think that's something that the script nailed, where it's just like it tackles the kind of isolation and like quiet aspects of the character. And that's something that I've always identified with when it comes to Gonzo, because I love Gonzo, and it's just one of those things where it's like the reason I love the character is because he's not afraid to be himself, and whether or not that means he's going to be out on his own, and his friends unintentionally not ignoring him, is he's got his quiet moments even when he's doing the most bizarre stuff on the planet. I mean, when he's trying to catapult himself from something just to be like, I am the great Gonzo. But I mean, it's still very much okay, he's the loner of the group, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's beating to the rhythm of his own drum, and that makes Gonzo Gonzo. I mean, he's the only one of his kind, and you gotta love him for that. And I mean, it's just, there's so much about Gonzo, and like I said, David Goles is the last Muppet performer standing. Because even when Frank Oz came back to Yoda, he came back to Yoda. He didn't come back to he didn't come back to Miss Piggy. He didn't come back to any of the Muppets. He came back to Yoda, which I still love. But you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
Dave has very much been there as Gonzo since, I think, practically since day one, if not Dave until day one. It's one of the reasons the Muppets Haunted Mansion works as well as it is, because it's still, no, Gonzo is still Gonzo. He's still there, and it makes it awesome, in my opinion. And it's, like I said, Gonzo. I love Gonzo dearly. He's will always be my favorite Muppet. There's just something amazing about the weird bird nosed weirdo that you can't help it, who has a love infatuation with chickens for some reason, but you kind of can't but help love the guy at the end of the day. And it's everything I love about Gonzo. Is he's just the best. I love him so much.
Yeah, I think as a kid I was drawn to Gonzo just because of the fact that he was so excited and always so self-confident in the things that he was going to do, even though they always backfired so horribly. But I loved the fact that he always thought, like, I'm gonna make this jump, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna, you know, whatever crazy stunt, thing he was going to do, he was always like super sure of himself and everything. And I really like that. I have to say, watching now, and watching the Muppet movie, um, the joke about how he wants to make it big by going to India basically to go into whereas most people would be like, I want to go to Hollywood, right? But he wants to go
Yep.
and be in Bollywood basically. Like, I don't know who thought of that, but that just like struck me as just the funniest thing, that it's just like he's always like marching to the beat of a different drummer, like it's like I'm gonna go
Don't
there and I'm gonna make it
don't you
big.
mean
Oh,
Hollywood? Well, if you want to go the easy way.
okay. Yeah, exactly. Oh. But yeah, other thoughts on Gonzo? All right, then Steve, why don't you tell us your favorite Muppet?
So I have always been a fan of the monsters, whether it be
Hmm.
Sesame Street or whether it be the Muppet Show. I'll obviously, Animal is one that has stuck by me for years. I love the Rita Moreno "You Give Me Fever" song, and Animal's like, yeah, and she'll look at him and like, but it's just so much personality, and that goes for all of them, but just so much personality in one that doesn't really, is more monosyllabic than anything, um, but just so awesome. Um, you know, Speaking of the monsters, you know, my little finger puppets up there. My first monster was Oscar,
Hmm.
and I had one or still have one that I played with all the time. And my grandmother, it ripped, the little plastic ripped apart, and she sewed it back together. And I was probably 5, 6 years old. Um, but she had sewed it back together, and I remember I couldn't play with it for half a day because he was recuperating from surgery. Um, but
I use
but
that same line with our kids.
Yeah. So, yeah, the biggest thing is monsters, all of them, Sweetums, any
Mhm.
of them are just fabulous, but Animal has to be one that I've always loved. You give me anything with Animal on it, and I'm gonna cherish it.
Yeah, I was expecting somebody was going to name Animal, and I was actually surprised it took this long to get to Animal, because I guess sort of my thought was that everybody's favorite is either Kermit or Animal, like it's generally like the case. But yeah, no, Animal's a lot of fun. Beth, do you want to say anything?
What's funny for me is that with Animal, he gave me anxiety as a kid,
Mm,
but as an adult, I freaking love him.
yeah. Yeah, you really loved the Mayhem show that was on Disney Plus, and you loved the Animal.
I really did. That really brought the joy of Animal to me. And I still yell Moog at our dog, and it, you know,
Are you going
I
to
don't
give
want
us
to
an
peek the
animal?
microphone.
Are you going to give us your animal performance, Beth?
I have to back away from my microphone because I know it will peak. Moog! Norm. Funyuns! He's a fun voice to do
Mm,
in general. But I also love Sweetums. I
yeah.
can't believe I forgot about Sweetums before, but yeah, Sweetums, when it comes to like the big human-sized ones, Sweetums is number
Mhm.
one.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, we haven't even talked about that with the Muppet shows. It's like some of them are people in costumes. I mean, they're not even puppets anymore. They're,
They're
and it's,
furries
yeah,
in
yeah,
modern
I mean,
technology.
it's yeah, it's just fascinating, like the different like things that they do, in that show with the different prosthetics and various like things that people put on and everything to create characters in that show. Like, yeah, that's kind of neat. Any other thoughts from anybody about Animal?
I will say you mentioned the Muppets Mayhem, and probably one of my favorite scenes in that is where they're all got the neck braces on, and they're like no head banging, and they're like
Yeah. Um, all right, so yeah, I mean, Gonzo was the one I was going to talk about. I'm not sure I love him as much as I did as a kid, but I do still have a lot of the love for Gonzo that I had as a kid. But I think I'll go with Beaker
I knew that was
now.
coming.
Because that's right. I absolutely love Beaker. I mean, it's simple humor, right? I mean, it's the character that always has the bad stuff happen to them. You know, he's the assistant for Professor Honeydew. And, you know, Beaker and the best part is that Beaker never wants to be involved, right? He knows it's gonna go bad, and he gets cajoled into doing whatever it is that he's supposed to do and whatever consequence happens to him. But again, and you know, we talked about puppets without a lot of expression. Beaker has even less than most of the Muppets. Like, you know, he just has a mouth. There's really no movable parts on the face other than the mouth. But
And the mouth is just like a flap.
right,
It's not even like a jaw. It just kind of goes bloop,
but
pops right open.
the vocal work and the posture of the character is what goes into it there. And again, the vocal work is just variations on meep, right? Like meep, 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 you know, like it's not like he can say a whole lot, but with just varying the tempo and varying the volume and you know
The
and just
pitch.
like the way that they move the you know the character, it creates a lot of expression for the character. And just yeah, I always loved, you know, going back to when I was a kid, I always loved the bits with Professor Honeydew and Beaker. But like Beaker, I just thought Beaker was the greatest, so yeah, I think that he's a really good one.
I think another good thing about Beaker, it's like even though we say like his design is simple, he's one of the very few Muppets that like his one of a part of his anatomy is extendable. There's a joke
Mm.
there. We're all going to be mature and leave it. Like his head can retract and go
Yeah.
out, and that part of the expression is just like it perfectly embodies him wanting to hide because he shrinks his head away from everything and just
Mhm.
tries to be like just eyeballs above the collar
Yes.
if possible, because then maybe I'll be safer. Never works out.
Yeah.
I just always felt sorry for Beaker. I'm like,
Yeah.
please give him a different job. Like Professor Honeydew needs a
Give him a
braver
day
assistant.
off.
Like Beaker is not up for this at all.
My favorite Beaker fact will always be the fact that it's fully canon that Beaker is WWE athlete Sheamus's cousin, and I love everything about that.
Okay.
That is still my favorite. That is still so when they were doing the stupid guest host things for WWE back in I think it was like 2011, the Muppets were on a full episode, so they had random bits throughout the show. And at one point, Christian of Edge and Christian fame is trying to pick a fight with poor Beaker of all people, only for Sheamus to come up behind him and defend Beaker, but then you find out it's because it turns out that Beaker is his younger cousin. And he fixes his hair and everything. It's so funny. He just pretty much pats him on the shoulders, makes sure he's okay, and fixes his hair for him, and asks, he's like, "So how's our aunt?" It's so funny and out of nowhere, but it's amazing. And that's one of the many reasons I love the Muppets, is because you can get away with nonsense like that, and it works.
Well, again,
You
with
don't
like
question it. It just
they
works.
fudge the lines between the real world and the Muppets, and like it's just part of the fun. Is like human and a Muppet can be cousins. Sure, why not?
Like there's a picture of Gordon Ramsay and the Swedish chef going on a showdown. Like they're staring at each other.
Nice. What were you saying, Steve?
Oh, well, you're talking about the vocal of Beaker and like just what they do with that. One of my favorite Muppet Show videos is the Danny Boy, Swedish Chef, Beaker, and Animal singing Danny Boy. Of course, Animal's, "Oh, Danny Boy, oh, Danny, oh, Danny Boy," and it's like me. I was like, it's just so hilarious. Every St. Patrick's Day, I'm gonna share that on my social media.
I mean, that's something we haven't mentioned either, is that what's really neat to me about the Muppet performers that do the vocal work, like Frank Oz and others, is like they can sing in character. Like it's not just they're like good singers, they can sing as various characters too, which is like a whole nother level of skill, because all the Muppets are musical, right? Like, I mean, pretty much. I mean, they all sing at some point in time or other. So
Yep.
you not have to only, know how to hit your notes, but you've got to know how to do it as as a character, which to me is pretty diverse characters. Like you can't just do your own voice. You've got to do a voice and then sing. So I think that's kind of like amazing just how talented, these people are that are doing this and how they match up what the puppeteers are doing with everything that the vocal performance is doing, which it's just really good. Any other comments on Beaker?
We need to put him in witness protection, just like Kermit.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a lot of great characters. I mean, we didn't mention Ralph, we didn't mention, there's so many cool. We had Dr. Teeth, like the various, different, characters that they have, um, but I want to talk a little bit about just bits that we like. I talked a bit about the Muppet Show, and various things that I remember, from just watching the Muppet Show. But is there like a skit or a portion of one of the movies or something that you would like to talk about? Also that you think is just like a good, like this, I always love this bit, from the Muppets. So, um, let's start with you on this one, Steve.
So a few years back, they did the little online bits,
Hmm.
and they would put them out there, and the Swedish chef making the popcorn shrimp, and it's dum 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 dum, and it was just all the music and everything, and meanwhile, you know, everything's going absolute bonkers in the background. The shrimp are getting loose. He's making the popcorn, and it's just that is hilarious to me. Definitely very well done, and it took it kind of opened up, in my opinion, that audience to or that those characters to a probably a different audience that maybe had not really knew who they were before. Those were all good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I actually wasn't aware of those, so that's something that I should go look to see if I can find.
Yeah, go look up popcorn shrimp.
Okay. Yeah, I will. Um, Eric.
Basically, and I know it's a very giant umbrella, but any bit involving either Gonzo and Ratso together, or basically any and all things involving Pepe.
Okay.
Because Pepe is the best, okay? Okay. That's all I can do when it comes to the Pepe impression. How you doing, okay?
Okay. Miranda?
You gotta love a king prawn. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do love Pepe the Prawn. He's terrific. Um, yeah, oh gosh, like there was a one they did on the Muppet Show that was a bunch of pigs in French Revolution outfits singing "Staying Alive," which is like tasteless, hilarious history humor that tickled me particularly as a history nerd. But also I like particularly I think like twice they did so I don't even remember which guest stars it was, but I know they did like little they had people sing Inchworm, which is one of my favorite songs. That and it was always so cute because they have like the little teeny tiny worm puppets and it's just so sweet, and I just like whenever I see those ones I'm like, oh, it's adorable, and I love those ones very much.
All right, Beth.
You are asking me to go through an entire mental catalog of all Muppet things, and all I can come up with is Christopher Reeve's performance. He's doing like Shakespearean stuff and is surrounded by Muppets at the same time. That dichotomy is hilarious.
Oh, Christopher Reeve was a revelation, right? Like as a character, as an actor, I really only knew from Superman. to and the amazing thing was the Muppet Show of all things was because then I saw a couple other movies that he had done after we saw him on the Muppet Show, just to be like, oh, like I'm kind of interested in Christopher Reeve now. But like I think the Muppet Show gives a better showcase for his talents than any movie he did during, he didn't have much of a movie career.
He
But
out-Frenched Miss Piggy.
yes, oh God, that was because Miss Piggy thinks she's so cultured and everything, but she knows like maybe like 20 words in French, right?
Oh,
And
that's
it's like,
that's an overestimation.
he's speaking fluent French to her. And then I was like, wait a minute. It sounds like he really knows French. And so then I look him up and he's like, oh, he studied theater in France. Oh, okay. Yeah, like, okay. So- oh my God. But yeah, like just the range of his talent. Because, no movie, I think, challenged him as much as that little Muppet Show he did, where it was just like, oh my God, he's like the complete range of like human performance, emotions, vocal work, everything. And I was just like, wow, wow. Yeah.
And then we saw Death Trap, and my brain
I
still
was
needs
just
to
say
be
Death
bleached.
Trap, man.
Yeah, I've seen Death
Woo!
Trap. That's one of the ones that I saw. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for him to be making out with Alfred.
Yeah.
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine. Yeah. But yeah, oh God, yeah, that was such a great episode of them. And I don't hear it talked about anywhere as near as much as some of the other ones, but I'm like it's amazing. Like I wish I had seen him on stage because I would have loved to have seen, Christopher Reeve's stage work because yeah, he's really good for, that kind of a thing. I thought for sure, Beth, you were going to bring up Phenomena.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah,
I
it's
may
a
or may not have that
ringtone that you
ringtone.
have on your phone, for goodness sake.
Yep. It did a good job waking me up most of the time until it didn't. But yeah, now anytime we say the word like phenomenon or something of that similar cadence, we burst into phenomena.
Yeah, we go.
And it's phenomena. Phenomena. Yeah, it just happens.
Yeah. All right, Tom.
Phenomena.
I love from the Muppets reboot with Jason Segel and Amy Adams, Chris Cooper as Tex Richman, Uncle Deadly as his sidekick, maniacal laugh, maniacal laugh. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. And the thing is, to have an Oscar winner, I don't know if Cooper had won his Oscar by this time or if it was I think he had won his Oscar by this time, but it's just so much fun to have A-list talent just cutting loose with the Muppets.
Mm.
And Deadly's been around for a while, but to give him such a prominent role as the villain's sidekick, brilliant. So yeah.
I mean, what makes that even better is they double down on every single one of those scenes by having Bobo, everybody's favorite bear, just having to play the straight man while the two of them are fully committed to the bit, and he's just standing there going, like you can tell just from the puppet work and like the back of his brain, he's going, "Do I have to join in?" And I think he actually says it out loud at one point. He's like, "Oh, I should probably join them, huh?" So good.
I think because I was actually going to talk about the Christopher Reeve episode, but I think I'm going to mention the Steve Martin episode because that's another example of them saying, the show's kind of hit a rut, and that's if people listening to this, if you haven't watched the Muppet Show in a while, if you've never seen the Muppet Show, give it a try. Every time the show hits a rut, give it like 2 episodes and they do something that like blows the format out of the water. They did a whole episode where the whole episode was them doing a performance of Robin Hood one time. They did an episode where, they do these episodes that are just like they just break the format, and then like when they come back from that, they're doing different things. So there was one in the first season where I felt like, oh, the Muppet Show is, like it's not as good as I remember it being. And then they do an episode where it's like, we're canceling the show this week. because I can't remember what the reason was, but there was something came up where
They were hiring new talent.
yeah, they were hiring new talent, and so we're just doing
Auditions.
auditions. So all the normal stuff, there was no Fozzie stand-up routine. There was none of like the normal thing. They used to do like this sort of ballroom dance segment, like for the first couple of seasons. There wasn't that skit. There were a lot of these skits that they just didn't do the normal skits, and they had all this just sort of random stuff. And Steve Martin, who's supposed to be their guest for the, like that's the thing is, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Steve, we're actually just doing auditions this week, and so. Steve Martin's there, like watching the various acts and whatnot, but he wants to perform, and so he gets up, he does like he plays with the ukulele, he does some stuff, but like another great showcase for a very talented actor. That I mean, Steve Martin, of course, I mean, has been in millions of movies. And of course, been on Saturday Night Live and other things too, but it's such a big career and whatnot. But it was again, the Muppet Show is so great at condensing into 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it was back then, without commercials. Like a really good range of like all these actors and letting them do like you get his comedy, you get him doing like some regular like interaction type performances, and you get him doing musical stuff and everything. It's just like it was a fun episode, and so I really enjoy that aspect of the Muppet Show, just letting actors cut loose. I guess sort of teeing up on that, one of the things that I do want to say is one of the most fun things about watching the Muppets in any incarnation is how the humans relate to them.
Oh God. I was hoping you'd go there.
And so, and so it's funny. You can tell the episodes of the Muppet Show where either somebody is just so excited to be there, and they're having a blast, and the ones where someone's agent told them, you need to do this show, it's a hit, and they would rather be anywhere else. And the best expression of that I can mention is the Elton John episode, which there were like 6 musical numbers in that episode, which they never do. So that there was some negotiation that happened that was like, Elton will only do your show if you let him play like 6 of his songs and basically try to sell an album. But also Elton John, watch him in that episode. He cannot look at the Muppets. He will be looking anywhere else in the room. You can tell he's disturbed by this. He is not having a good time. But it's funny to me watching it because it's just like he will not look at the Muppets. He'll look anywhere else in that room other than that, though.
Crocodile Rock's a classic, though.
No, yeah. Oh, no. I always loved that song, even as a kid. When I didn't know anything about it, being, the Muppet, being on the Muppet Show or anything. But yeah, I always loved Crocodile Rock. I thought that was a fun song. But yeah, I've heard somebody say there's 2 approaches to dealing with the Muppets. You either have to do what Michael Caine does and treat them as Shakespearean actors, or you have to do what
Tim
Curry does and treat yourself as a Muppet.
or Vincent Price.
Yeah. Oh God, the Vincent Price episode. Yeah, that one's pretty good.
So, what I'm surprised. I'm surprised none of us have brought up, especially with this panel brought together of people. Nobody brought up pigs in space.
My favorite part when I was a kid.
It definitely crossed my mind.
Yep. I always looked forward to Pigs in Space. I always wanted that segment. Honestly, watching it as an adult,
I'm the captain.
yeah, watching it as an adult, I'm not as thrilled with Pigs in Space as I was as a kid, but that was always my favorite when I was a little kid.
It's actually it's the only time I like that, because I can't even think of his name, that puppet, that Muppet, the one that's basically the Kirk ripoff. It's yep. It's the only time I like him in anything. But in the sense that even when they're acknowledging him backstage, and he's still like playing off of basically being the Kirk archetype, and like because any other time they tried to use that character, it didn't really work. But anytime they fully embraced the Kirk-esque stuff with him basically being a play off of Shatner was very fun. Any other time they tried to use him, it just didn't work.
Yeah. No, I'd go along with that. Yeah, we mentioned before about things that we feel like may not have been like right for kids or whatever. Um, there's an episode where the guest is Alice Cooper, and that one is messed up. Like that one was kind of like, all right, this one makes me a little uncomfortable because they lean into the whole satanic panic thing on that, and I'm like, this is a Muppet show. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's making like the Muppets sign contracts and stuff, like selling their souls to him, and it's just like, okay, this is too much, guys.
Interestingly enough, I just checked the IMDb user ratings. The Elton John episode is number one.
Mm,
Alice Cooper is number four.
mm.
So
People are weird. I don't want to be one anymore. Can I resign?
You want to be a Muppet now, Beth?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'll pass on that one, thanks. I gotta save Untook first.
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, like, I don't know. Does anyone have any? I mean, I guess sort of like to close things out a little bit here. Like, what do you think about like the future of the Muppets? Like, what do you have any thoughts about as far as like what you would like to see? In the future from them because they've done the odd movie, in recent history. Like we said, they did the Mayhem show, which at least everyone I've talked to who's seen it enjoyed it. I just don't know if it's just not enough people saw it that they didn't do another season of it. But yeah, like, do you have any thoughts about what you would like to see from a new iteration of the Muppets, either in TV or film? Um, Tom, do you have any thoughts there?
I want more Disney Muppet cross-pollination. I want Muppet
Mm.
Star Wars. You know, I don't know about Muppet Avengers, but forget these live action remakes. Remake some of these movies with the Muppets as the characters.
Yeah, like
Mm.
Legos, but softer.
The
Yeah, like
because
everything's a Lego something, like
Yeah.
Lego Star
yeah,
Wars,
yeah,
Lego. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the adaptations they did Muppet Wizard of Oz for TV. It was
Mhm.
okay. It was fine. That's tricky because you have to stick to the book because MGM
Mhm.
Warners will sue you if you use anything proprietary from the MGM musical. But Treasure Island and Christmas Carol are two of my favorite of the movies,
Mhm.
and they're just fun. I mean, they're having fun with the source material, being fair, staying fairly accurate to it, but adding their Muppet twist. And like you mentioned before, Nathan, the Michael Caine and Tim Curry performances are fantastic because of the two different approaches they adopted, and they each work in their own way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think right now Disney corporate doesn't know what to do with them, which is a shame because you've got this gold mine, and they went through their various behind the scenes. When Jim was alive, he did not. He was very wary of selling them kit and caboodle till Disney, and I think the complete sale was done after he passed. But do something with them, Disney. They need to be one of your top franchises. Maybe when they retheme the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios to Muppets Mayhem, maybe that'll help. And
Yeah.
they
Sorry.
should have refreshed Muppet Vision 3D
Hmm.
over the years, and they didn't.
Yeah, I think that across the board, Disney has just had the mindset of let's milk this IP and not what is the vision for growing this IP's, visibility. So it's just we're just throwing stuff out there, without like a really good plan as far as like, how are we getting everybody to watch this thing? How do we get, like how do we get these characters into, to be embraced more? It's just we're putting out more content, and that's not the right way around to be looking at it.
Muppet Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
That's a recast I could get behind. Kermit as Indy, Piggy
No.
as Marion. I'm in.
Miranda, do you have any thoughts about what you would like to see from the Muppets in the future?
I would definitely be up for more movies that are like adaptations of classic books because yeah, I think Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Christmas Carol were some of the best ones. So like I think, keep going with that. I would definitely like that. And I do remember when I was little watching Muppet Christmas specials
Hmm.
and I mean they have tried to like do them every now and then and I like the more recent ones weren't as good as like the ones when I was little. But if they could find like the right people who like get the Muppet zeitgeist to
Hmm.
really like do that, I think like, having maybe yearly Muppet Christmas specials again would be really nice if they could get the right people to do them.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, as much as I talked about Disney not really having a direction or whatever. I've liked pretty much everything I've seen with the Muppets to some degree or other. Like I was mentioning to Tom, I didn't like the first few episodes of that 2017 show that was on ABC, but I thought it got better. I thought that overall I liked the show once I saw all the whole thing, the whole season that they did, because I felt like after like the seventh or eighth episode, it found its stride, and which was probably around the time they changed the showrunners, that it really got good, and I had a lot of fun with it. So I mean, I haven't had the problems with the Muppets that I've had with a lot of other Disney IPs, but of course they're not also putting the Muppets out there as much as they're putting Star Wars and Marvel stuff out there. So yeah, I mean, but I think there less is more. I think, make sure when you do a Muppet thing, make sure that you're putting like the quality into it.
Make good.
Yeah. Steve, any thoughts about what you'd like to see of the Muppets in the future?
I loved what they did with the Electric Mayhem, giving them their own kind of side story at the same time, kind of keeping them really away from that main cast and not putting them as or other folks in there that would potentially draw away the attention. So I like the idea of taking some of those more obscure characters, um, a nice little Halloween special with all the monsters.
Hmm.
Um, and you could Sweetums and Animal and just all of those little uh crazy characters that are meant to be just a little bit scary, but not. Give them, come up with a good story, um, and throw them out there.
Hmm. Beth?
I kind of want to echo everything that's been said about adaptations of books and things. I think that's where modern Muppets is really its strongest. Whereas it's very sad, but like the vaudeville variety show isn't a done thing these days. These days, would I like it to come back and be a thing? Yeah, but I don't have high hopes for that in the way that the world is right now. But anything with the Muppets, really, as long as it's doesn't suck.
Yeah. Yeah, I would, I mean, we I would love to see somebody try it again and just see if people would accept the skit show that's a little bit of singing, a little bit of, a little bit of comedy bits, a dramatic performance, a little bit of that. I would just love to see if like people would watch that, because I think that's one of those things that people are all convinced it wouldn't work, so they don't even try it. And, I would love to see if they could do like a new The Muppet Show. But
Or maybe a Muppet talk show, because like that's what we have. That's the closest to variety shows these
it's
days. We
true.
could have like Kermit host like a late night talk show, and they still do a couple of skits in the beginning,
Hmm.
and we could like have like a Muppet like and I think celebrities would be delighted to be interviewed by Muppets. Like honestly,
They
I
still
think
Oh,
do
people
like
would want
Space
to do it.
A-listers.
Ghost.
Yeah, just like Space Ghost, Beth.
Yeah, yeah.
They tried that about 2 years ago, not with the Muppets specifically, but it was the voice of Freakazoid. It was Brian Henson produced slash I think like helped direct a lot of it. It was I'm blanking on the name of it because it was on Disney Plus. And I think Kirk Thatcher was attached too, because Kirk Thatcher is the guy who were directly responsible for Muppet Haunted Mansion. But I'm blanking on the name of the character. So it was basically Space Ghost with what was essentially Pilot, but like a little more animated, because Pilot from Farscape, obviously, but a little more animated. And I'm blanking completely on the name of what the actual name of the character was, because even the co-host and his little minions were full on like they were Muppets. They were alien Muppets, but they were Muppets. And once again, blanking on it, I think it only lasted like 8 episodes, but it was a full-on Brian Henson, Farscape-ish production. And like I said, the lead,
Earth to Ned.
yep, Earth to Ned, yeah, it was on Disney Plus for. Like I said, I think it only sadly lasted like either 6 or 8 episodes, but it went under the radar. It's sort of like how Muppet Haunted Mansion was on the front page in the little thumbnail thing on Disney Plus for, I want to say, it was popular enough to be on there for a good 6 to 8 months. And Kirk, I mean, I don't want it to come off as a plug, but when I talked to Kirk Thatcher, he was responsible. He's part Muppet Haunted Mansion, Muppet Pirate, yeah, Tom, you mentioned it a little while ago. It's one of the strongest '90s ones, other than Chris. Yeah, Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Christmas Carol. He was part of the crew of all those. Kirk Thatcher, who's also like he's one of the punks in Star Trek.
In Star Trek 4.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
but he's a big Muppet collaborator and has been for forever. He said they pitched stuff basically when they were done with Haunted Mansion. We had a bunch of merchandise. It was super popular, super praised, and then we didn't hear anything about anything until the Mayhem project. And once again, that was praised and everybody loved that, but then radio silence again. And like I said, all we know is they closed Muppet 3D, and we're obviously getting the reskinned Aerosmith ride to the Mayhem Express, but that's literally all we have right now. Everything else Muppet related is up in the air, which doesn't make sense because it's like, okay, you produced 2 super popular projects with the Muppets in Muppet Haunted Mansion, and then you followed it up with a Mayhem project. You guys saw the popularity, you saw the want and need for it. Where's more product? Like
I think
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think the problem is, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think the problem is everybody thinks CG is the future. And I think that there's sort of like a looking down on the Muppets, like sort of mentality on a corporate level, right? Like, because I think
yeah,
we kind of demonstrate throughout this panel also, that there's still a great deal of love for the Muppets as Muppet. I mean, you could turn those characters into CGI, but then that kind of defeats the point, but like, there's love for that as a performance, with the puppeteers and the voice work that goes along with that. But I think a lot of people on a Disney corporate level think that's like an old thing that young people aren't going to be interested in. We need to develop like CGI, stuff, and that's like, what kids and younger people are going to get into. And I think it's wrong, but I think that there's a lot of belief in that. Or it could be just something they tell themselves because CGI nowadays is probably cheaper than hiring people to do like the actual Muppetry and, to do all that work. But I think with the popularity of the characters, I think they'd get their return on investment. But
look, disdain for the arts and artists.
Yeah, no, I know. It's an old song.
You'll love to see
right?
it. It fills me with such rage. Like, all you got to do is look at a Godzilla movie and see that there's more practical value in a set of minis than a bunch of CG schlock. we can go back to movies that we've seen and thought at the time, oh, this was such great CG, and we go back to it now and it's like, oh, that looks
well. That's the problem. CG
terrible.
does age a lot worse.
But now like as we've been saying with the Muppets, it's timeless because it looks good. Practical effects are always going to be better than CG.
No, you're completely right. CG 10 years in the future, any CG that's good now looks pathetic. So yes, you're that's a very good point. Um, what I would say, and I wish I could take credit for this idea, but it's an idea that's been an earworm in my head for like 10 years now, and I want to see this now. I want to see the Muppets playing D&D where you switch to real actors like in the D&D world, but their voices are the Muppet voices. And so the idea of like Miss Piggy playing a barbarian played by Jason Momoa, and every time Jason Momoa like moves his mouth, it's Miss Piggy's voice coming out. That idea is so funny to me that I'm just like, you could print money with that one, like hire all like the big name actors, these days and have like the absolutely wrong Muppet being the voice of that actor. I think that would be just like the funniest thing that you could do, and I would absolutely love to see that. And yeah, they'll never do it, but I mean that's just to me it would be
in a similar vein, if they had Jack Black in that in any capacity, I might be able to actually tolerate the man. Especially if Gonzo's voice is coming out of his face.
But yeah, you get like just have like just the absolutely like wrong voice coming out of every character and just make it like the most outrageous thing ever. And I bet you the actors would absolutely love doing that too, to get into, and acting like they're Muppets, right? Like, like you can see like Jason Momoa if he was Miss Piggy and going, hey, yeah, and doing like the Miss Piggy like stuff and the overblown like attack moves and everything. Like,
and if you're curious, yes, in the D&D campaign, he did have Miss Piggy as a barbarian.
Yes, I did. Yep. But
I just got a weird mental image of Sylvester Stallone coming onto the screen and me.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, no, I've had a lot of fun here talking about Muppets. I mean, because there's so much Muppet content out there. I mean, like when you think about, all the different series they've done, all the different movies, like there's so much Muppet content out there, and I really feel like there is something for everyone with the Muppets because it runs such a wide gamut. I mean, I know there's been a lot of love for the original Muppet movie said here. I actually liked The Great Muppet Caper as my favorite of the movies. Partially because I think the lot of the guest stars and that, like the fact that they had Mrs. Peel in it, okay? They had Mrs. Peel in it. Like I was just like, oh my God. Like you can tell that the star of the Muppets was sort of rising in the early 80s where they were able to get like these big name, actors into these things. And yeah, I thought that one was a lot pacier than the original Muppet movie, and I had a lot of fun with it. But the first one was good. Third one I thought was a little bit of a downturn, although funny enough, that's the one I remembered best from when I was a little kid. But yeah, I think that, the between the movies, the various shows, everything, there's some aspect. And like, we talked about like nowadays people like, I think corporate people think like CGI is the thing, but Mayhem was a show that just came out, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I feel like it slides in pretty well with any other show that's come out, any streaming show that's supposed to be like sort of like a lighthearted comedy type show. I have no real complaints about that show.
I do. It was too short.
Well, fair. That's fair. But I feel like the Muppets are a concept that work in any time period, and you can do a show that updated, definitely they didn't make Mayhem and it doesn't feel like the same show that as a show in like the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, but it was still funny and still got what the Muppets are, still had those aspects we talked about of the meta levels and interacting with humans and the expression on the characters and all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like the Muppets are timeless.
I can't take credit for this one, but the internet as a whole has agreed that one of the Knives Out sequels should basically be Benoit Blanc and the Muppets, and that's it. That's all. That's all that movie has to be. And I
Yeah,
can see it, honestly.
I've heard some other concepts too of like, yeah, like basically do like an already existing movie, except only one character is a human and everybody else is Muppets. Yeah. Yeah,
Princess
and that was
Bride.
one of the
Yep.
ones that I've heard, but there have
Yep.
been several that people have suggested of, redo movie X and only this person is an actual human and everybody else is a Muppet. Yeah. But
I
yeah,
mean,
there's so
Carrie
many ways
Always
you
is
could
already a Muppet.
there's so many ways you could spin the Muppet concept, I feel like, and make a fun movie. Um but yeah, I I last thing, I just want to make sure everybody's had a chance. If there's one thing that you're like, we can't leave without talking about X, do you have something? So Beth, do you have anything more that you wanted to say before we go?
I feel like I'm suddenly under tremendous pressure to remember things, but I can't. So
Okay.
I guess I'm going to leave it there.
Okay. Eric?
I do think, looking back on it, and I mean, like I said, we've mentioned a lot of the other projects, and we have mentioned it a couple times in passing, but I do think a lot of people have forgotten exactly how good that 2009 movie is and just how big of a love letter it is to the Muppets as a whole. I really think a lot of people need to look back on it when they get a chance and kind of appreciate what we got and the fact that like um we got it like we did and how good it is just surprising because everybody understood that assignment and completely embraced it, and I love everything about that 2009 movie. I think it's probably one of his better projects as a whole, and I mean you can tell going into Forgetting Sarah Marshall and the Vampire Musical just why he got the Muppets like he did. But I mean, that project as a whole is absolutely fantastic. And if people haven't seen the 2009 Muppets movie, highly recommend seeking it out because it's one of the better Muppet projects of the last 20 years. So
Is that the one where the closing number is basically announcing that they're going to have a sequel?
yep.
Ah, that's what I thought. Okay. That song all of a sudden just popped in my head and it won't let me go. Please help.
So I'm trying to
Never
look
mind.
this up. Are you sure it was 2009?
I think it was
Is it 9 or
2011.
11?
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay. I was
2011.
gonna
I'm
say, is it
looking
9
right
or
now, so I
11?
just want to
Okay,
make
my
sure
bad.
if anybody's listening to this, he's talking about the
Sorry.
2011 one. Yeah, sorry. I was trying to find it on the
Fix it
computer.
every time I say date.
Yeah, I was just making sure so that way it doesn't
So we can
confuse
have a
people.
Oh, no, you're
voiceover
good.
for
My
everything
bad.
before this, so it's like 2011.
Yeah.
Just edit it right in there.
Right. Or I could just have you say it in Animal's voice, Beth, and I'll just dub that in.
2011!
All right, Tom, anything you want to say before we go?
More Muppets. More Muppets, please.
Please, sir, may I have some more Muppets?
More Muppet! More Muppet!
All right, Miranda?
Oh God, just like if anybody else is a big musical theater fan, like the cast of Phantom of the Opera on Broadway before it closed, they were all big Muppet fans, and they did a video of them all singing Phenomena in their costumes backstage. That's very adorable, and it's on YouTube. So like,
I
look for
need
that.
this!
Yeah,
This
it's
ticks
on
so
YouTube.
many of my girly boxes.
Definitely look for it. It's cute.
Yeah, she said it's on YouTube, Beth. So you should be able to find it. Yeah, Beth is a huge fan of Phantom of the Opera. She made me watch it and its sequel. Its sequel is Demented, but that's a whole other podcast. Yeah, he goes to Coney Island because that makes sense.
If you do a podcast on that, I will be on that. I have so many Phantom opinions.
All right, Steve.
I think we covered quite a bit of nostalgia tonight. I feel like anybody listening would have a good take on why they should go check out the Muppets if they've never seen it before. So I think I'm good just sitting over here thinking about a bear in his natural habitat, a Studebaker.
All right, yeah. So like we said, there's Muppets for everybody. So if you're not, if you haven't really experienced a lot with the Muppets or whatever, just go through. Disney Plus has most of the Muppet, shows, movies, whatever. There are a few gaps in there. because of server space, I'm sure, and what they feel like has, more potential or whatnot. But certainly the Muppet Show, which I think we've all kind of, had high marks on. It's all there, all 5 seasons, or at least it was as of a year ago. I'm sure that hasn't changed because I think everybody loves the Muppet Show. So, check that out. I mean, if you want to just dip in and just do the ones where you recognize the guest artist, I mean, you can do it that way, or you can watch through the whole thing, from beginning to end, like Beth and I did. But there were certainly performers I had never heard of before, while I was watching that. And then, there were always some that I know either from movies that I've watched or whatever, or some are still popular even now. So, I mean, like Steve Martin is an example of somebody who's still doing television now, still just as talented. As a total aside, the fact that in Only Murders in the Building, he's playing a character who's supposed to be completely unmusically talented is one of the funniest things to me, because it's like you're saying Steve Martin has no musical talent. Like, it's just okay. Anyway. All right. So, let's say our goodbyes. Let people know where or if they can find you. So let's start with you, Beth.
Okay, so my newest thing is I now stream on Twitch, which would be twitch.tv/LadyBirdieBop, and that birdie is spelled with an IE. The name behind that is a long story. I'm not going to get into it because this is a sign off, not its own podcast. And that's pretty much where I live these days. So yeah, hope to see you there.
All right, Eric.
If you look on Instagram, I think it's the same on Threads because that's where I'm trying to be more active. It's eRiddler87, though I guess self-plug since I already threw it into the episode. If you look up the Wild of Comics, the audio edition, which is how to find my podcast, which is sadly inactive at the moment, hopefully very soon. But there is an interview, like I said, I think it's about 4 or 5 episodes back with Kirk Thatcher, all about the Muppet Haunted Mansion. We do throw a little Star Trek talk in there for Nathan. I did that intentionally for you at the time. I was like, I have
you
to
just had
mention
the
how he's
internet
punk.
come after you, man. Like, you've got a bullseye on your forehead right now.
It was because I was talking too fast, but no, like I said, because we're talking Muppets, so it's pretty recent. You should find it pretty easily on the feed, but it is a very fun conversation, and he talks a lot about working with the Muppets and just, in general, because he's been involved with the Muppets as long as he has. One of those more background, not necessarily knowing kind of people that you don't know right away that has worked with the Muppets, because he's much more behind the scenes kind of guy. But yeah, that is the shameless plug I'll throw in there because it is a very interesting conversation and it's cool to find out more about the Muppets when you can. Hooray! And that is it, internets. Thank you.
Steve?
Well, as one of those old dudes that aren't on a lot of the social media platforms, I'm still relegated to Facebook, but I'm posting a lot on the Earth Station One network. That's pretty much here in my man cave with all my toys.
Miranda?
I'm not publicly online anywhere, but I encourage people wherever they are to support live local theater in your community.
Yay!
And Tom.
You can find me Blurred PhD on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. I still am on X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't know why, because I never post on it, and it's a cesspool. And I host the monthly Screen Tom with an H left in on RY, because my 2 co-hosts are Ryans. And you can find that through my Facebook or Insta pages or iTunes podcast by Spotify. Sorry, Apple Podcasts, not iTunes.
Oh, Beth, Eric, Steve, Miranda, and Tom, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Thank you.
Mana.
All right, that's a wrap on the Muppets. What did you think about that episode? What do you think about the topics that we've been choosing lately? Are there any topics that you would like us to cover? You can let us know in a bunch of different ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our website, 42cast.com. You can also go to our Facebook, facebook.com/42cast, or you can find us on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Threads at 42cast. You can also join the 42cast Discord server, and there will be a link to that in the show description on the podcast platform that you're looking at, or on either our website or the ESO Network website if you're looking there. You can help out the show and all the shows on the ESO Network by going to the ESO Network Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/ESO Network. There are different perks for different tiers. Some perks give you access to early episodes of some shows, some give you access to exclusive episodes of some shows, and some give you access to a whole exclusive ESO Network podcast that's only available to patrons. So if you want to check that out, go to patreon.com/ESO Network, review what you can get, and if you have the funds to contribute, and if you would like to do so, we would greatly appreciate it. As I record this, I'm still addressing the fallout from having to change hosts for the podcast. So nothing has been done yet on getting Time Streams or Legendary Forces out of hiatus. I'm hoping to do that soon, but that work on the 42cast is still ongoing. Hopefully you're seeing some of the benefits of that, like getting individual episode images for every episode, which is one of the few things that's actually great about doing this. Most of it is just a lot of hard work, though, to get me back to where we were, with the old feed. So keep watching this space for more developments. I have nothing new in Watch News. Beth and I are watching all the same things we talked about before. I will say again, we're still watching the anime for One Piece. We're in the 400s now, episode-wise. That is a really great episode. If you've been daunted by the episode count, or if the animation style just didn't seem right to you for anime that you like, I suggest giving it a try, because the animation style was a big turnoff for me for a long time, and honestly, you stop noticing how weird it looks after you've watched a few episodes, and story-wise, this may be the greatest anime of all time. I mean, I'll have to get all the way through the whole show, but I have never seen an epic done like this. And unlike other long-running anime that feel like it's more like an American show in that they're just making it up as they go along, this show feels like there is an actual purpose and an actual through line, and even though it's gone on a long time, it feels like there is an end game in mind, and we are going towards that. Stuff that happened a long time ago comes up, and it feels like, oh, that's why that was introduced. It's not just like, oh, randomly just, things get pulled up from the past. So it's really good. So I'll put in a plug in for that. All right, with all that being said, that's a wrap for this week. Join us back next week when Avery Brooks will not be joining us. And until then, this is Nathan signing off. You have been listening to the 42cast, copyright 2026. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42cast is a proud member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.